Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We've been gone for a minute, but we're back. It's been a couple weeks. Had some life stuff going on, and people have jobs, and you know how that goes. So we had to pause the show for a couple weeks, but we are back this week. It's a good time for us to be back. A lot has happened in those 2 weeks with our favorite basketball team, of course, the New York Knicks, and around the NBA. We're going to get into all of that in a minute. But as you know, I do not do this alone. So let me bring on Craig and Ty. Hello, gentlemen.
Yo.
How are y'all doing?
Back in black. That's how we say it.
Well, we know today is March 15th. It is also known as the Ides of March. So you know,
movie. Wasn't that a movie title too?
There was a beer I used to drink that had it was
the religious version. Religious
from the mountains of malt. The malt.
I only drink the good stuff, right?
The malt liqueur mountains.
Yes, I also as well have had that malt liquor.
I don't drink peasant water.
Oh, I can't even think about drinking it now. That would do. Oh man.
God, I cringe at the thought of it. I really do cringe at the thought of it.
I know, man. The stuff we do in our youth, sometimes, man, we just
terrorize.
Oh God, not good stuff at all.
No, sir.
But yeah, but we've had some good stuff with this team.
Yes.
Since we last spoke, at least since we last spoke publicly to everyone else. We've talked obviously amongst ourselves, but it's been a couple weeks, like I said, since we did a show, and we're back this week. And yeah, we have a ton of things to get into. A lot has happened surrounding the Knicks, not only on the court, but also off of it.
Yeah.
So we'll get into some of that as well. Then we'll get in, of course, to some of the stuff going on around the league. There's a lot of off the court stuff happening around the league that we need to talk about as well. So there's things that we're going to get into, hop into, and just break it down like we always do, because that's what we do here.
That's what we do.
That's the fun we have.
Let's get it.
So let's start out with here. We're going streaking, right?
Not literally, people. Not literally now.
But we haven't been streaking. Us three here. We have not actually gone any streaking, but the Knicks have. The Knicks were famously went on a 9-game win streak, which was definitely the best period of consistent basketball that they played all year. Like they had an 8-game win streak earlier in the year, but as we spoke before, a lot of that was fugazi because they were playing teams without their stars or weird things happen. But this last one was pretty legit. This last one, I have to say, especially culminating in that win over the Celtics, that double overtime 131-129 win over the Celtics, where Emmanuel quickly had his national coming out game. I think the Knicks fans who have watched him, we kind of know who he is and what he's capable of, but he hasn't done that on that kind of a stage. So that was fun to watch and fun to see. So do you guys have any any quick takes on the 9-game win streak and what you felt at that point? Because we'll talk about what happened afterwards in a minute. But anyone want to talk about the 9-game win streak how you felt during that time? No?
Craig, I'll go. It's up to you. Okay. Well, go ahead, Craig. Go ahead. We want to hear Craig's voice anyway. We need to hear from Philly. Come on, Philly. Bring it through.
I was pleasantly surprised because when we did a couple weeks ago, we did the
win-loss game.
The win-loss game. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pleasantly surprised. Once they won 4, I was like, okay, well, I'm definitely losing this. We're all losing this, right? So I was pleasantly surprised. I was happy. I was actually excited this time, right? First couple win streaks, you're kind of like, okay. This time I was excited. I was happy. I wanted them to get to 10 in a row. I'd have been happy with that. But that Charlotte home, that was definitely a trap game. But like I said, everyone was playing well. They've won most of these games. Not most of them, but the last 3 or 4, right, without Brunson. So that's a good sign. A lot of them were on the road. That's also a good sign. Everyone was playing well for the most part. That's a good sign. So I was happy. Again, it's not those first couple win streaks. This was a legitimate one, and they were actually playing well.
So you bought this one. This one
I bought this one. I was excited about it, to be honest.
All right.
Yeah.
Ty, what about you? Did you buy this one?
This was the first time, and you guys know personally that I've been pretty much even keel about the Knicks. I said I'm not going to get too high, too low on them. I'm not going to go, jump out the window, without a parachute, and a cushion at the bottom of the floor. I wasn't going to buy into this team until I saw something that made me think that maybe this is sustainable, what we're seeing that they were doing throughout the year. And that winning streak was the first time I think I've probably actually yelled at the television in a good way, like, with some euphoria of like, wow, I'm buying, I'm biting into the apple a little bit here from what I'm seeing. And that was probably the first time that I started thinking about the playoffs with this team. That was the first legit time I said, maybe, just possibly, with the right breaks on our seeding, we could maybe get out of the first round, get into the second round, and depending on who that second round opponent is, perhaps maybe even get into the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, not saying this team is a juggernaut or great. It's just how the league is structured now, and a lot of what we're seeing down the pipe with the playoffs looming. We see teams not consistent. We see a lot of teams that have fractures in them. So let's say, if the Knicks, after that streak, I started buying into them buying in and believing they could win, and they show the kind of grit that we want from a New York Knicks team. And I did buy in. I'm buying into them being a legit playoff team, like, not a play-in, a playoff team, that with the right break could be on a special run. I think they could, but things got to break well for them. It's got to be the right first round opponent and second round opponent. But that was something you would have never gotten me to say. I said that they were a play-in team all year, and this was the first time after that 9-game winning streak that I started buying into that they could possibly get to the second round.
Okay, I was kind of. I mean, I bought it, but I was kind of, because of the nature of this team and the way they've been all year, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I just kept waiting for that game where you're kind of like, crap, here it goes. I have to say, I was impressed with the streak though overall. I thought that they showed, for the first time, they kind of showed what they could be at full, when everything's clicking and on all cylinders. They kind of showed that. They also showed that they can compete with any team in the league during that stretch. They had a win over Philly, was one of the wins, and then Boston, obviously, that was the big win there. So at least we know in the East, maybe not Milwaukee. Milwaukee still gives them issues. I don't. It surprises me that Milwaukee gives them issues. I know Giannis is great and everything, and how great a player he is, but it surprises me because I feel like they have answers at positions for the Bucks, and yet it doesn't matter. Like, whatever they see that team, something happens. It's kind of in their head, I guess. So I kind of don't know how they would fare against them. But as I said, waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it did.
Yeah.
Against a team, let's be honest, they should have beaten. Like, it was a trap game, as Craig said. He's 100% correct. I was worried about it too. The trap game was right before they were going on the West Coast trip. It's this game against a team, like we said, they should have beaten. I believe it was a day game too, right? Wasn't it a day game? Right.
Yeah.
So it had all the elements of a classic trap game, and that Charlotte came out and beat them. I believe that. I think I might be misplacing the game, but I think they had a bad last second half of the fourth quarter, right? I think that's what it was. They kind of stumbled down the stretch. Yeah. So, that started a 3-game losing streak. And I was saying, okay, here we go again, right? We won we won 8 before, then we lost 5, I think, and now we won 9. I'm like, here we go again. We're gonna start going on a losing streak again. But they did stem the tide, and they ended the West Coast trip strong. So I think that they kind of, at least they didn't go into this tumble that they could have been. But let's be honest, the fact that they did a lot is, like Craig said, without Jalen Brunson is impressive. Like, it is impressive.
Yes.
Emmanuel quickly has shown that he's better than I think Ty, you and I, all three of us thought. I think he's shown that. I mentioned, I think today or yesterday, I think it was today, this morning, he's starting to remind me a little of John Starks, not in how he plays the game, but just his impact on the court, what he does. He doesn't do the excitable things with dunks and stuff. He does it more with threes and those long 3-pointers that we all like, don't shoot them, but he'll take them and he'll hit them. So I feel like that we started to see that more consistent play from him. We're going to get into a little bit of the other players going on, but I feel like they're in a good place. They have 41 wins, right? I think 41 wins now.
Yeah, it's 41.
And
41.
I said 45 was if everything broke well, be 45. They're probably going to win a couple more than that. They probably will win 46, 47 in that range, I would think. So there's 12 games left or 11 games left.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep. So I mean, we're gonna see, but I'll rephrase the question back to you guys again about when they started the losing streak. Did you also think that it was gonna keep a roll? Craig, you said no. You didn't think it was gonna.
No.
All right.
No.
No, why? You thought that they're too cohesive now to.
No, I just feel like that was just a blip. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be too optimistic because this team doesn't give you a lot of optimism, based on history. But I couldn't. Someone, I don't know what poll it was on Twitter. I don't know if it was. I can't think of who it was. One of the Knicks pages, and they asked, "Where do you think the Knicks will end up on the road trip?" I said, "What I say? What was it? 2-2? They played 4 games on the road."
Yeah, they went 2-2.
I picked 2-2. I just had a feeling they were going to go 2-2. I didn't think they would. I thought they would have beat the Clippers, but they lost to the Lakers. I honestly thought that. I don't know why, but I'll take beating the Lakers any day, right? And that Portland game, I wasn't expecting that though. I wasn't expecting to go to bed that night and then wake up to see that they came back and basically destroyed them. I know they were without Jeremy Grant, but still, that's a big win on the road, in my opinion. So
no, it was. I mean, 100%.
Yeah.
It was. So yeah, I mean that was that was surprising to me, but especially the way the game started last night. I really thought they were like, this is one of those games, end of a trip. You just want to get home. Randall wasn't playing well in the first half at all. We'll get to him in a minute, but he wasn't playing well. So I kind of thought that they were going to lose last night, but no, it's true to form. This team all year, they do fight, even when they're losing.
That's true.
They do fight. So they came back and they wound up blowing them out, which was super impressive. After how that game started. Ty, what about you? Did you feel like the tumble was gonna, become tumbleweed and go across the desert at that point?
It's funny. I've seen this team now start to win in spite of certain things. It's like I think the Boston game kind of solidified that I think they have a great resolve about certain things because Boston game, what is it, double overtime? I think the game went into, and
Yes.
They were just so gritty. To go into a hostile environment, classic rivalry. Boston's the big dogs in the East at the time. All the makings, the Knicks had beaten them twice already. Once in Boston, once in Madison Square Garden, and then you figure Boston is going to load up. No Jalen Brunson. You figure, hey, the Knicks are going to get their asteroids handed to them. You figured that. And to watch, a guy like IQ come in, first shot of the game, he just nailed a 3. That was an attitude. That was a bring it shot. Like we're balling tonight. We're not playing around. And It was something about that game when I walked away from watching that, and I'm like, kudos to IQ and how he played, but it also just showed the grit of the Knicks of being in a game they should not win, and they're like, no, we're supposed to win this one too. So in spite of, I look at even the Clippers game. If our friend of the show doesn't, kind of implode at the end of the third quarter when we had the lead, he really took the air out of the parachute, literally, and they just they couldn't recover. So we could have very well have been 3-1 on this trip, because the Clippers weren't killing it. Kawhi was killing it. The rest of the Clippers weren't killing it. So, they had an opportunity in that game. If the friend of the show didn't implode, we would have been in maybe a better situation. They've showed this all during this streak, which is why I said I gained a little bit more belief of a team that just won't quit. And, they're going to fight down to the very end, win or lose. And, I think the thing that's happened with the Knicks is the Knicks have kind of snuck up on the league in a sense of their reputation from prior seasons is what people are basing when the Knicks roll in to an arena now. And it's not those teams. It's not the prior, versions of the Knicks. This version of the Knicks is headhunting. They want a playoff spot and they think they can win in a round or maybe go further. So I think they've been taken a little lightly by a lot of teams, but I didn't think they were going to stumble. I just thought that they might have a couple hiccups, in which they did. But they're a pretty good team. They're good. They're a good team. They like each other. That's the one thing you learn about the Knicks. All the players, I think they do. Well, let me think. It seems like most of them like each other, I should say, and it brought into wanting to be a part of something special. So,
can I just make a quick point, real quick? I'm sorry.
Sure.
And it kind of leads. It kind of is the same realm of what you're saying, Ty. And this is not me caping for Leon Rose and crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the last couple. Listen, hear me out. I'm not trying to cape. I just want to make this point, and I want to see if it sticks. Okay, the last couple years, we get impatient, we get frustrated over the moves they may make in the offseason, right? And then we get mad and then frustrated and impatient with the moves that they don't make at the deadline, but then they always seem to make that one move that kind of is the right move. And then they kind of sit back and say, well, look what we did, right? If you don't count last year, obviously, right? But the Derrick Rose deadline deal, then the Josh Hart deadline deal. And they just kind of say, oh, no, we like our team. We like our players. And every time we hear them say that, we get annoyed, roll our eyes like, okay, of course you do. But then all of a sudden, they make that one move, that one good calculated move, and then it pays off for them. And they just kind of sit back and don't say anything. They don't say anything when you want them to say something, when you're frustrated with them. And then they make that move, they're like, oh, okay, this is actually a pretty good move. And then they sit back and don't say anything either. So like they could easily come out and start gloating and all that good stuff, but they don't. Now, that doesn't mean that these moves that they're making, the Rose move or the Josh Hart move, the Derrick Rose move didn't lead to anything spectacular in the playoff. It doesn't mean the Josh Hart move is going to lead to anything spectacular. But they just make that good move, and then they just kind of sit back and let it marinate, and then you'll see what they do the next year. So I just want to give them a little credit for that because they could honestly come out kind of rub our noses in it if they wanted to, right? But they don't. They always just seem to make that move, calculated move that may work, a miscalculation that doesn't work. But it's fair to say they're like, what, 2 for 3 now in these moves? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
I think it makes sense. I don't think they have to gloat. Tom will gloat for them, because he tends to let people know his genius. Oh, Quick's my guy. Josh Hart's my guy. So he's doing the gloating, like these are, which goes back to who's making the call sometimes, but I'm just going back, I digress. He's the one up on the podium now saying, hey, look, I'm King Snake. Look what I did.
Well, yeah.
That's what
exactly. What they did this year is what they didn't do last year. last year they added a player he didn't want.
Yeah.
This year they added a player he did want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they did with Derrick Rose too, right? So Craig, you're right. You would say 2 out of 3 they got right. But they got that right because they did what I'm not as big as fan, but if he's coaching your team, then you should get him some of the players he likes to coach. Like that's a fair comment to make. Bill Parcells famously said, if I'm going to cook the meal, I should be able to buy the groceries, right? So it's a very fair statement to make. And I feel like that's what they did this year. They listened to the coach, and it's so far. I mean, they've lost what 3 games since
3 out of 15 or 12 or whatever he's been playing.
Yeah, like 11 and 14 in their last, something like that, or something.
That doesn't mean it's going to yield the result. I want
Uh-huh.
to make sure I say this because I don't want this to turn into a thing where they're like, oh no, it does not mean it may yield the results that we want in the postseason. But to get you there, because they're clearly not going to drop past 5th at this point, or even unless they completely burn down, like they're not going to or flame out. So it was enough to get you out of the play-in, to get you a favorable matchup with Cleveland, because I wanted to avoid the Sixers at all costs, right? Because I had to kill myself and I had to be in the city and deal with that. But I mean, they want to be a mid-level team, it appears, for now. If that's their goal for now, then they've accomplished that. Mission accomplished. Big Navy ship with a leather jacket on.
I think that's the issue for me is that is their goal. I mean that's
until they can hit that big swing.
Yeah, I think for me it's like Josh Hart. I mean, I'm not going to knock the dude. The dude's been lights out. He's been everything that you would want out of a player of his type, and then some. He's added definitely something that we didn't have. We can clearly see that now. He's tenacious. My joke is I call him Josh Pippen. That's what I call him because he's literally become that glue defensive guy, everything guy. The Swiss Army knife or whatever. And the move made sense for the coach we have. It's absolutely a perfect move. The problem has always been with me is, like I said, I'm getting older. I want to see a ring sometime before I die. And I sometimes think the Knicks get a little too swallowed up in the whole idea of we're making the playoffs. Your job is to win a championship, not to make the playoffs. And sometimes I think the moves are to get us into a 5th seed. Like Eric has been pointing this out all year, and he's been just so dead on. He says they're playing for the 6th seed. And I'm like, well, really, he's right. They are. They've been playing for the 6th seed for the longest time. And it's like your goal should be playing for the championship, not a 6th seed. And I know it takes steps. I have no problem with the steps. But to me, it's like they're like making a big deal about us maybe getting swept in the first round. That is the problem with the Knicks. Like we see these short-term adulations instead of saying, well, okay, what about next year? Like you said before, Craig said Derrick Rose made an impact, but we didn't get out the first round. So we bring in Josh. He made an impact down the line to get a playoffs, but we're probably not getting out the first round unless things break, in a great way for us. So those moves help, but they're regular season championship moves and not world championship moves in the end of the season. And that's the thing that if I'm going to judge this front office in its totality, we're on year 4 or 5 now with them?
They're 4th right now. The 6. I mean, the Knicks.
We're on year 5, I think, with them. 4 or 5, 6, at least 5. I think it's 5 years.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
I think it's 5 years. I think it's 5 years. So we're on year 5. You've gotten 3 guys that you've maxed out your contracts on, and these are your big 3. And we are talking about the 5th seed. Usually when you put together a big 3, you're talking about championships. You're not talking about first round of the playoffs, maybe getting swept. So, Josh worked out great. D Rose worked out great. I have nothing against those guys personally. I like how they play basketball. I just think the front office is a little bit about preserving this coach's record of being a great statistical coach. His winning percentage is high, but Tom Thibodeau's teams don't go far in the playoffs, and that is where we are now. We look at when even Derrick Rose at his peak, MVP Derrick Rose, Miami torched him. We go back to Minnesota. The only difference now is that Tibbs' fall off wasn't too bad. Like he got this is the first time I think in his coaching career where later in his stages of his tenure he's actually winning. at a good percentage versus the other stops he has, bombed out after 3 years. So,
Right.
it's good. And then I'm just indifferent because I'm like, I want more than just to get into the playoffs. But I mean, I know it takes time, but when you're building towards the future, we have assets. I'm not trying to get too ahead of ourselves, but we have assets that eventually have to be utilized in some way that's going to bring you a championship. And I don't know with this coach if we are trying to get a championship. Not with what we have. What we have is not going to be championship level basketball yet. We need a player. I don't even know who's really the best player on our team. I mean, we could say Brunson, but this team, how it's structured, is not structured around our best player. It's structured around our best playmakers right now. Like, we don't have a definitive one. We have a definitive probably three, top two, maybe the number two. We have two number twos and one number three. That's a little weird dynamic. I don't know. I just think we need to build a little bit more.
Well, one of the players that the player that we got last year who didn't work was recently traded for Josh Hart. And he recently spoke about his time in New York. And one of the things he said that's got a lot of attention was, I paraphrased, but basically he said Thibodeau says that the minutes are earned based on merit, how well you're playing. And he's basically saying, well, no, that's not the case, right? He's like, it is for some guys and it's not for others. And we've talked about that. We've talked about this in the past. So this isn't something new that we're hearing. But it is worth pointing out because we saw it again last night. We saw it again last night with Randall, who his first half, he was 3 for 11. He was terrible. Like, he was god awful in the first half. He had a better second half, and he got some padded. I'll say he padded his stats a little bit at the end with a couple of shots he made when the game was already kind of in hand. But this has been an issue. We've seen him do this before. We've seen him, like I said, Randall could do whatever the hell he wants. He's not going to lose playing time. Yet Obi misses a defensive assignment, and he's back on the bench, right? Same thing, similar. We've seen it even with RJ Barrett. Like, he said, get in the gym. Like, he said basically he needs to get back in the gym. And I'm like, how come he doesn't say that to the other guy? Like, he doesn't say that to anybody else. So clearly he has his guys, right? And we know who they are. Randall, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, and Emmanuel Quickly. Those are the four I would say. Obviously Derrick Rose, but he's not playing right now, so he doesn't count. But those are the four I would say I would call his guys. Like, those are Thibodeau's guys. And their minutes are guaranteed no matter how terrible they're playing. And it just sets a bad example. Like, it doesn't – everyone knows he said this. Everyone's heard him say it. He said it in the press conference. Like, I'm going to play the guys who earn the minutes. I'm going to play them as well. Like, those are – and then last night, even the bigger thing, he started talking about – I mean, this is not related, but I just came to my head, so let's talk about it. He was talking about playing to players' strengths. That's what he said. He said that's what you do. You gather players and you play to their strengths. Yeah. And then I thought of RJ right away. I'm like, well, then why are you forcing this guy to shoot 3-pointers when he's shooting like 56% from 2 on the season? Like, some ridiculous number he's shooting from the 2-point range. So why are you saying take 3-point shots? Like, why are you making Obi Toppin shoot 3-pointers? Like, this guy's an athlete. Like, it's just kind of like when another player who left brings this up, like, you kind of have to listen up. You just kind of perk up now and saying, okay, there's more to this than that. So, I mean, outside of the analysis of it, Craig, what did you think of his comment? Did you think it was appropriate? Did you think it was sour grapes? Did you think it was he just answered the question he was asked?
I'm a guy that thrives on the idea that multiple things can be true at the same time. Probably all three, right? A little bit of sour grapes. He's still young. He's still a human being. He's allowed to be upset about things. He was asked a question and he answered it. You don't always have to give the politically correct answer. I think, and I will give Cam Reddish credit for this. I think that he has a future in politics, and I mean that wholeheartedly. From even when he was with the Knicks, he played it very even keel. He was respectful. He chose his words very carefully. And now he's in Portland. He got his point across without making himself look foolish in his age, if that makes any sense. To the point where Tibbs, when he was asked about it, he knew he had to be just as respectful as Reddish was. And he said, "Oh, yeah, I'm happy for him. It was trades that worked out for both teams. Perfect."
Yeah.
And I think that we give Cam Reddish a lot of for being aloof and sometimes being a little bit absent-minded, but the kid is very measured for someone whose his mentality has been questioned. So I think it's a combination of all those things. He may be a little salty. Okay, that's fair. But he's also probably telling the truth, and he's also asked a question. So I have no issue with the way he responded. 'Cause I like Cam Reddish. So if it was like Tim Hardaway, I'm like, oh, he's just corny, and his dad's corny, and his number is corny. Like, so I was like, screw him. But I've always liked Cam, so I give him a pass.
The salty Hardaways.
Yeah. So,
Ty, what did you think? What did you think of the comment? Did you think the comment was well timed, or like I said, do you think he just answered the question he was asked?
I mean, I think it could be both. I mean, the Knicks are coming into town. They asked him about his former team, and I agree with Craig. He politicized the hell out of that response. He's politicizing the hell out of all of his responses while being in New York. I don't think Cam told anything that no one didn't know. I mean, this was letting the cat out the bag that was never in the bag to begin with. This coach has been flagrant in letting people know it's his way, it's who he likes. There's not I think the worst politician is probably Tibbs, in the sense that he has come out and said out of both sides of his mouth two different things. You earn it by merit, let alone. However, if I don't like you, I don't care about your merit. That's really what it has really come down to. We saw the same thing. I don't know if it's becoming a garden policy. This screams so much of you kill what you eat. You eat what you kill, or whatever the heck it was.
Right.
And the accountability went right out the window as soon as he said those little cliche answers. I don't know, maybe they come with a script when they become coaches in New York, like read this card and say these things, because none of them have ever proven to be true, and both from the Riley tree, so to say.
Right.
Accountability, where they both talked out of both sides of their mouths. We know the labels on Cam. Cam has had the same labels that from high school, college, in the pros. We already know about that. The one thing I didn't like was that was the cliches that were jumped on about the kid when he was benched. Oh, his energy level. Oh, he's in a little. Yeah, these are things that you can tag along with this kid because they've always been true. So it's not like you're telling something that no one didn't know about him at that point. It's just more so, they were going to try to discredit what he's saying. Like, oh, he just didn't fit. No, we don't know if he didn't fit. We have no clue if he didn't fit, because when he did fit, he got taken out of the game. When he got injured, it was supposedly you don't lose your position from injury. Well, he did. He got benched, and we never saw anything from him ever again. We've seen Evan Fournier come in, get blamed for being a garbage player, albeit he's a hell of a guy in FIBA. The FIBA loves him, but here he sucks. He's terrible. So we've heard these mantras about these guys when we all know the story is if this coach don't like you, he's not going to play you. If you're not conforming to this archaic style of what he believes is a the 5-man unit and what contributions are, it's really with him, it's all about defense. It's never been about offense. He can care less about what you do with the ball, because if he did, he would implement a system that that it was inclusive, as opposed to just take the ball and do what the hell you want to do with it offense. Like I said, you don't benefit in this offense. If you don't hold the ball, if you're not the person dominating and patting the rock, you're not going to benefit in this offense. You are basically a slave to whoever decides to not pass you the ball. That's really what it comes down to.
Right. Well, the other guy who recently spoke out, and I'm bringing it up on the screen now because it's something that I feel like we should talk about, Mitchell Robinson spoke about his role in the offense. Yeah, the Knicks are playing well, all this other stuff, but he spoke about his role in the offense. And basically, this is what he had to say. So Mitchell Robinson said, tired.
Please read it as is written. Do not give please read it as
Don't change the words? Okay.
No.
Tired ASF of just being out there for cardio, fam. Like, I want to play basketball. 2, really just wasting my time and energy. And then he follows that up with disappearing for a while. So here's now. Let's be fair. Let's talk about how it really is. I like Mitch Robinson. I'll say that first. I really like him as a player. I like him as a guy. I think he's a good player. He's smarter than I think he lets on, and than people give him credit for.
Well, that grammar and punctuation tells me something different.
Well, yes, but
I'm joking. I'm sure he's a very intelligent kid. I'm just saying.
I'll say this about that though. Social media speak and computer speak and stuff is always kind of different than how we talk.
Yeah, a little something different.
Right. So
kidding, everybody.
I'll give him benefit of the doubt. Give him the benefit of the doubt with that. But it was kind of alarming, the timing of it. Now, the game last night, he wasn't playing well. I mean, I can honestly say that he wasn't playing well. Hartenstein's been playing better of late. Mitch has had his up and downs here with health. Obviously, he hasn't been, he hasn't been the healthiest Knick. He seems to get these little nicks and bruises that pop up every once in a while. And they seem to linger. It's a very strange thing. Like he has had some of the weirdest injuries, but he gets them. And, when a lot of times after a game like that, you're just venting, you're frustrated, stuff happens, you're thinking about stuff. We've all done it. I've been stupid and tweeted reactions. As everyone knows here, I also do a fandom podcast called Straight Outta Gotham, and we talk about a lot of things there. And I have famously overreacted on Twitter to certain things that have been said about certain things that I watch, or even comments that I've made. And I'm guilty as charged. I've done it before, so I understand where he's coming from with the frustration. The problem I have is that this is the kind of stuff you say when your team is on a losing streak or hasn't been playing well. He hasn't been benched. He's part of the rotation. He's just not. I guess you can look back to what Reddish said about the merit thing, but this is kind of a display of that. He hasn't been playing well. So, you shouldn't play. You don't deserve to play if you're not playing well. If the guy behind you is playing better, he should play. And that's kind of what this has been going on. However, it's not the first time, as we see now with Cam. We know he spoke up about what happened there. Now Robinson is speaking up about his playing time. People read into this and kind of thinking like he was talking about offense. I don't know if that's what he meant. He just says, I want to play basketball too. Like he didn't specify and say, I want shots, or, he wasn't real specific about what exactly he wanted. So I don't know. It was just, I didn't expect to read this when I woke up this morning. This was literally happened last night. So I woke up this morning and I was like, what the hell? So Ty, what was your reaction to it? What did you think?
In all fairness, I'm going to be fair in a couple ways with this. Mitch probably has some offense in his bag that we've not seen. We've been hearing about the premiere of some of these things over the summer. He's hoodie mellow, literally, in a lot of ways, except when it comes to the regular season. We hear the talk, we've heard the talk. And it's always brought up the great debate about Mitchell Robinson. Is he allowed to do things or is he not allowed to do things, in the offense? The suggestion has always been, because this is not the first time, I brought this up earlier to someone on another thread. I said, this is not the first time he's actually stated that he's not out there for cardio. He's saying he wants his touches. He wants to, I subscribe. I'm an old school. I'm an old head. I always say it. Magic Johnson, my favorite player, was always big into feeding the big guy. He was like, the big guy's rebounded for you. He's blocked. He's done the dirty work. You got to reward him on the fast break. You got to get him some buckets, keep him entertained, feed him, to let him know you're part of the game. You're not just there for the rugged, gut-wrenching stuff. I mean, Dennis Rodman, shot threes, at some point. He's like, take the three, Dennis. There was no guy probably more wired to not be offensive than Dennis Rodman, and he still had opportunities to hit shots. He can call his number and take a three. You see a guy like Mitchell Robinson is a young dude. He's a little unbridled still. He wants to be involved. And you're seeing him. He does a lot of the dirty work. He probably does all of the Knicks' dirty work, to be very honest. When you look at the totality of the Knicks, there's no grimy or grungier player than Mitchell Robinson. Josh Hart might be getting there now, maybe Deuce McBride kind of, but they're perimeter guys. Mitch needs the ball to be fed to him, and he does need to work on some of his offenses. Like sometimes I see him near the basket, I'm like, well, if he had that little hook shot there, or if he had a go-to move or a post move or any little move right then and there, he could have opportunities to score. But I do put this on the coach, and I do put this on the players. And maybe the players more than the coach, to be very honest. Jalen Brunson's at least has become the leader of this team, we'll say. This guy is giving you guys second opportunity. He's one of the best offensive rebounders in the game. So your shots are coming off of him. Those secondary shots, your scoring average and attempts are going up because this guy decides to lay his body on the line night in and night out. Would it kill you to say, I'm going to get you open for this lob? Look for the lob, I'm coming to you. Or maybe running down the court, say, hey, big man, keep running. You run, I'm going to feed you. Run the lane, or whatever. Say he doesn't have the post move yet. Is it going to kill you that when you draw on a double team, you might do a little shovel pass to him? And granted, Mitch's hands are not always great. I'm going to keep it a buck altogether. He doesn't always have the greatest hands. He's not like Nerlens Noel. His hands are stone. It's not like that. I mean, I don't know if Noel even had hands. He's a flipper. We don't even know what he had, but in the same sense, when we look at a guy like Mitchell Robinson, is it going to kill you to actually feed him the ball? There's opportunities, I mean, I look at Jalen Brunson, and there's very few negative things I'm going to say about Jalen Brunson, other than that when having the ball as much as he does, and he averages 6 assists. But this isn't a team that should be averaging 6 assists. He should be very well averaging almost 8 to 9 assists or 10 assists, because if your job is what Thibodeau says it do, was to get in the lane and spray, as they call it, what the hell that's supposed to mean, but you dish the ball, I guess, then you mean to tell me you don't have no avenues of sight for a guy who's 7'1", jump over everybody damn near in the league? You have a guy like Obi's a victim of the same thing. You have a guy that can jump and springs out of the gym, but you're not getting him a rock either. You're telling him, way down in the corner, and maybe we'll find you. If you've noticed, and Mitchell is not just the one guy. Quentin Grimes has disappeared on his attempts and open attempts. These guys are not getting the ball. A guy like RJ, they're missing because these two guys are holding the ball too damn much. I mean, just keep it a buck. They're holding the ball too much, and then you got a third guy coming off the bench who's holding it even maybe longer than they are. Quickly just dribbles around until he's out of options, and he goes, let me shoot. I brought this up last night, and not to try to veer off too much on the mid subject, but I brought it up last night. We're watching Billups empty his bench, and the Knicks, Thibodeau was like, oh, I guess I should probably do the same thing, being I'm up like 20, and it's like 2 minutes left. So he decides to empty his bench in 1 minute. Emmanuel quickly ignores it. He ignores it totally. He goes back, takes shots. Your teammates are lining up that have not played all game. And instead of him sitting there, and you think Thibodeau would be like, timeout, get these guys in. He allows them to evaporate the whole clock. And if you just go back and view the faces of those players standing on that sideline waiting to come in, and they're like, we didn't sign up for this, blah, 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 blah. And that falls on the coach, and it falls on the players too, because those are your teammates. You're not a team of 9. You're a team of 15. show some credit and give some respect to the guys coming in. And Mitch has every single right as the one Knick that you can say coming back from whether injury, he comes back hurt, he plays hurt, he's limping down the floor now. He gives it his all. And to know that he's sitting there going, hey, you think you can give me a lob? He doesn't average a double-double. How much you paying this guy?
I know.
Averaging 10 and 10? David Lee averaged 21 and 10. Or 20 and 10, 19 and 10. Off his own go-get. And this guy needs someone he can't get 10 points. Think about it. In the league of scoring, Mitchell Robinson, what is he averaging?
I mean, he's only playing 25 minutes, like 27 minutes a game.
And you paid him all this much. So why did you pay him in Josh Hart? I mean, in IR. Why are you paying him if he's not?
And the other thing, you're right. And the other thing about him, what's it called? Only playing, I think, 27 minutes, 28 minutes. His shot attempts, he gets 5 shot attempts a game. I mean,
the guy who broke Wilt Chamberlain's record on percentage for the year. Because he shot like 78% on the season one year, which was the single season, I think, for Wilt Chamberlain.
76.
76. So you got a guy who is Wilt Chamberlain, like in field goal percentage, that granted, if you give him an opportunity, he's going to dunk it all the time. That's a go-to, because it's the same myth that we have in the league now that the three-point shot is a high percentage shot. It's like we go away. We have a guy who you'll let Julius launch 300 threes. And granted, Julius has hit them pretty well this season.
Don't get me started on that.
But you look at a guy like Emmanuel Quickly. Quickly's not – the 7-game when he's been starting, he shot 30% from three. Go check the numbers. He's shooting 30% from three. You're allowing him to jack up all those shots. But Mitchell Robinson, who can hit 70-something% of his shots, you're like, oh, no. We're not going there with him. Let him get his own.
He's only shooting 36, yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I'm there with you. I think it's definitely a fair gripe. Craig, what about you though? What do you think? Do you think the timing of it is I guess right or shocking?
I'm not shocked by anything a 20-something-year-old does with social media anymore. I don't care what profession you're in. You could be a police officer. You could be a professional athlete. If you're a 20-something and you're not happy about 20-something-year-old, you're not happy about something, you are going to let it be known.
Yep.
I think it was a very immature thing to do. I guess I understand his frustration. But, I mean, just to be Craig contrarian here for a second, have we seen Mitchell Robinson try to put back rebounds? I mean, have we seen him when he gets a rebound try to put it back up, how awkward it is sometimes, right? Sometimes when he's trying to execute an offensive move, it's very awkward and like langly. Is that a word? Like it's very
gangly, yeah.
Gangly, there you go, gangly. It's just like I'm like, dude, like I get it. Like we see what you do on Instagram and all that nonsense. And you look very fluid in an empty gym by yourself or when you're playing scrimmage with your friends. But in the actual game time speed, he's got a little bit of Jared Jeffries to him. Right? I know that might be a little bit hyperbolic, but there's sometimes when I'm sitting there watching him trying to put the ball back up, it's very, very awkward.
Jared Jeffries was Mr. Basketball in Indiana.
Yeah,
don't
put some respect on his name.
He's also Mr.
on Double J's name. That's all.
He was also Mr. Yuckmouth too. So I don't want to.
Yeah, no.
I still have
bad memory, man.
I'm just saying, like, I'm not.
No.
I'm not trying to besmirch Mitch. I love the kid. He's great. It's just that it's a little immature, and your team is winning. You put that out there. You know your teammates are going to see it. You know someone in the front office is probably going to show Tibbs. It's not appropriate. It's just that's just my opinion. It's not appropriate.
I agree. The timing of it was a little surprising to me. I'm not going to lie. I thought the timing of it, again, I understand being frustrated after the game. After a game where, let's be honest, Hartenstein, I think, had like 11 rebounds, something like that.
22 rebounds, right?
22?
I think.
Wow, it was that many.
Hold on. I could be.
Yo, he was, I mean, he was.
I woke up and looked at the phone, so I don't know how.
he has been playing great though. Like he's been playing better of the two.
Well, I did say I thought iHeart would replace Mitch down. Did I not say it in the beginning of the season? I said.
Well, I mean that makes sense. Yeah, but that makes sense because he's just a better offensive player. So it makes sense to have him on the court at least for free throw shooting if you're going to get fouled.
It just makes it easier to ship him to Chicago for Zachy.
So, you know what?
For Zach Morris.
I think this is a little bit of a combination of immaturity clearly. I think it's also showing maybe the fact that this may have been something that has gone beyond him just bringing up all the time and nothing getting done about it. And he's like fed up with going maybe the right route and saying, I've been asking to get touches. I want to know when. You know, he sat at the podium, I think it was maybe like several months ago, and he sarcastically threw a jab. He's like, well, you asked me what I do. They don't let me do it. This is not what the position is. And
it's not my role.
It's not my role. You're gonna ask me, it's not my role. And that was a dagger, right? He's been throwing punches. It's not like, you know, and I guess you got to look at it this way. Emmanuel quickly did the same thing as what Mitchell Robinson did. It just he didn't come out and put it on his Snapchat. His people came out and said, you do everything this coach asks to do, and he doesn't reward you. So Mitch is not the first guy to come out and kind of do a jab at Thibodeau as far as saying you asked. So the Cam talk has been quickly talk, has also been Mitch talk, has also been RJ Barrett walking out and not doing post.
Not talk, but yeah.
Not talking, but telling Cam to tell them I'm not talking, which everybody knew that was kind of saying, I agree kind of with what going through. Cam knows what I'm going through. So, you know, they've all, because they're millennials, they're not going to come out and speak and bark the way that they should. But, you know, they've all kind of in the same sense have brought light to the fact that Thibodeau has his favorites and the way he's doing things. They have nothing to do with the whole team. It really doesn't. I mean, when you look at it, I told Eric, we're watching one of the lineups, and it was Josh Hart, Emmanuel Quickley, Julius Randle. Who was the other guy? It was Quentin Grimes, and it was somebody else at the five. It might have been iHeart. I'm not quite sure. I was like, this would be Thibodeau. This is who Thibodeau wants to start all five. He wants all those guys. He doesn't want RJ. Get out of here with your flashiness. Get out of here, Obi, with your athleticism. We don't want nobody like that in there. We don't want any of those guys. We don't want Cam Reddish because you're long and lanky or whatever we said the word was before.
Talented. He's talented.
Anybody who's got above, I hate to say this, but if I'm wrong, find me the guy when I say this. If you have high potential, Thibodeau don't want you. I don't care what guy you see.
Not even
it
Derrick
is
Rose?
Fair. No,
well, Rose, he couldn't get rid of Rose.
Right.
I understand that.
He couldn't get rid of Rose. I mean, they drafted him. He's Chicago's heart. But when you look at the rest of the team, go back to Minnesota, who he traded out of Minnesota to get Jimmy Butler. And no offense to Jimmy can ball. I'm not dogging Jimmy. But you let go of your boy, Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen. I mean, everybody who was athletic with high ceiling, Thibodeau didn't want their arse there at all.
He wants guys who are gonna listen to him and play his way.
Die for him.
Right. And guys who he needs guys like that because more talented players could turn around and say, I don't need you.
I don't need you.
I don't
Do we think Mitch forgot his name already. Donovan Mitchell would be that star? Just say, I don't need you.
If Donovan Mitchell came here, Johnny Bryant be the coach. Let's keep it
above. I'll say this. If Donovan Mitchell came here and the first 25, 30 games the Knicks weren't winning, that would have been bad.
Thibodeau be fired. He'd be gone.
Yeah, he probably would have been fired. And Mitchell, yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me of when Don Nelson took over for Pat Riley when they first got rid of him and Don Nelson came in. You want to change the entire way they did things. And look, I loved Anthony Mason, but making him the focal point of your offense was not a good decision. I'll say that starting. I was a huge fan of his. I admit it. I did like Anthony Mason.
Yeah,
Queens kid. Like he's a Queens kid.
But no.
But dude, like, and I understood he had talent. He could handle the ball. He had all that ability, but he couldn't shoot, number one. He wasn't a good outside shooter. And I mean, let's be honest. You had one of the 50 greatest players at that time in the league on your team of all time, on your team as the focal point, and you're going to tell him. I mean, that's revisionist history and all, but
it's laughable.
Yeah, like it kind of reminds me of something like that. Like, I don't know if the Knicks had Kevin Durant, just throw it out there. If he would have came here and they wanted to, and Fizdale didn't work out, and they fired him and they fired Thibodeau again, I have no idea how that would have, like, I sit there and think sometimes, like, what would he say to KD? And then how would KD respond? I know how KD would respond.
Oh, he'd be fired out.
Right? Like, he's such a strange coach. And people like to say, well, he's from the Riley Van Gundy tree, but Jeff Van Gundy was smart in this respect. He knew who his superstar was, right? He knew who his star player was. Mm-hmm. So he never tried. He defended Patrick Ewing. He backed Patrick Ewing. He always had Patrick Ewing's back. And then when Houston and Sprewell were here, after Ewing was phased out, it was kind of the same thing with them. Like he backed his star players. Thibodeau goes the other way. Like Derrick Rose, he kind of inherited, and then Rose was great for him. But I mean, when he got to Minnesota, that was the time for him to grab Karl Anthony Towns and be like, okay, I'm going to coach you and get you to be this. And the minute Towns showed any kind of aloofness, he was like, I'm done with this. I can't. Get me Jimmy Butler. And, that changed the dynamic of the team because they should have been focusing on building up Towns to become the anchor and the star of the team. But instead of that, he was like, no, I can't do that. I need someone in here who can understand what I want to do. Like I said before, I understand a coach wanting to have, like, buying the groceries to cook the meal. I get that part. But you have to know who your best players are, your most talented players are. And you have to feed into those players. Like I say it all the time, I don't mind the way he's with Randall, because Randall's a talented guy. Like, he has ability. He has skill. He's not just a brute player. He's not the smartest player. He's not the highest IQ. But he's not. I mean, he does have skill and talent. He's a good shooter. He handles the ball decently for a guy his size. He does have an inside game if he ever decides to use it. Like, he has those kinds of abilities. So I don't get mad about that with him. But then I look at someone like Obi Toppin, and I'm like, well, he was supposed to replace that guy. So why are you trying to make him into something he's not? It's just a very strange kind of thing where he sees a guy with talent and he wants to make him a guy who doesn't have talent. Like, he wants to make him into a guy who's a hustler, who's a grinder, and you need both of them. Like, those guys are great to have, but they're not going to win for you. Like, Josh Hart's an excellent type player that he loves. That's the kind of player he loves. But Josh Hart's not going to carry a team. What you need is someone to carry a team, right? Like, that's what Brunson is, that guy. Like, Brunson he's proven he can carry a team and get them over the finish line, at least in the regular season. He kind of showed it in the playoffs last year too. So, but the small sample size, but at least he's shown flashes of being that kind of guy. Like, yeah, I can carry a team, put them on my back, score a lot of points, and get us to the next round. Mm-hmm. So, but we're seeing this constantly, and it goes back to Mitchell Robinson. I think Mitch Robinson is more talented than than he's been able to show. Like, I think there is ability. Like you both said, we've seen it in the summertime, Instagram videos where he's crossing people up and shooting jump shots. And I'm like, okay, like, why are we not seeing this on an NBA floor? And I get it. There's the spacing issue and all that. That's not what they asked him to do. But I mean, tell him, hey, you have a 15-footer? Take the shot. Like, you grab an offensive rebound, go up strong with it. Like, I feel like he's coached to grab the rebound and throw it back out to the perimeter.
I think
Hartenstein does it too. Hartenstein, he doesn't put the shot up. He doesn't put it back up. He does the same thing.
I think that's very much. I mean, I think people I didn't get to unwrap a lot of what Mitch said. Even though it was just a little excerpt. It sounds like I'm whining, I'm complaining. And hush. For me, I think it is the fact that he's just looking. Look, there's 5 guys on this team, and 2 are playing basketball. I mean, that's really what you look at. You know, the Golden State Warriors, who got four championships. When you look at it, everybody touches the damn ball. There's not Kevin Looney's not sitting there, or Devon Looney Tunes, Looney.
Yeah, you're right.
No, he's not sitting there never getting the ball. You know, he's like never. Jordan Clarkson launches up just as many shots as Steph Curry. It's like when you look at, Jordan Poole. I'm sorry. When you look at all of Golden State, Steve Kerr has managed to extend his bench to the point where he has everyone feeling the ability to be able to come in and contribute in a game.
Iguodala's playing again.
Yeah,
he played last night.
And look at Mitch, who does all the grind work. You mean to tell me you can't go to the chalkboard and say, let's get Mitch a lob here to start the game. Let's go to him. Make him a threat. Now, and it behooves the team. If everybody eats, then they don't know who's going to pull the fork. That's the whole key thing about basketball, is when you share the rock enough, it makes it hard for teams to guard you. But you become predictable when you're like, oh, we know it's going to Julius, and he's going to milk it for 14 seconds. Or Brunson's going to get it. He's going to dance. He's going to get the paint. He's ultimately seeking his shot. When teams know that, they're going to whatchamacallit. That's why I brought up the point last night in our own private thread that, you know, these wins are great. But I'm not looking at the wins for a regular season anymore. I'm talking about we're going to go to the playoffs, clearly. Now you need everybody on deck. You need to make sure that RJ knows what his role is, and you're able to use to your team's advantage what he does great. We're starting to see that in the Laker game. We saw it in Portland game where RJ's like, you can't guard me out here. Now I'm figuring out the angles. You know, the comeback on Portland last night was a product of RJ Barrett and Josh Hart balling. Like those dudes came out and they were just like, we're going to get whatever we want.
Quickly was good.
Yeah, and then Quickly came in and added his burner. You know, we had
45-9, I believe, 50-9 bench points or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And you need that bench. That Brunson and Julius are not going to win you rounds in the playoffs. This is keep it a buck. They will probably give you a lot of fight in the game. At least Brunson will. I don't trust Julius's mindset to make the playoffs still.
Yeah, I don't trust him.
I don't care how the season.
I've known him a better playoff than he did in 2020, but I don't.
Well, hold that thought because that's what I want to talk about next.
Okay.
I want to talk about that. I mean, we've seen this before, and I've called it the fragile psyche of Julius Randle. We've seen it before, and I remember telling you guys the moment one thing goes wrong,
it's gone.
It's it, right? That's it. It's done.
Uh-huh.
And we saw it. We saw it against it was the Clippers, right? The Clipper game.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned it before, Ty. Like the Knicks were in the game. He was playing pretty well. He gets into it. Then he did he elbow someone?
He did, Plumlee.
Right? He elbowed Plumlee. And see, that's another thing. He should know that because that's what Plumlee's on the court for.
That's all he does. That's
what he does. And this guy, from that moment on, I was saying, I hope someone else has it because they know they are not winning this game. And that's what happened. And I mean, we could talk about him. The coach probably should have taken him out. We could talk about that. I think he did for a little while after the game had kind of gotten out of hand. But that's why this guy is you can't build around him. He can't be your best player.
Yeah.
And outside of all the stuff that we can argue about his actual game, like this year he's been great. Like he really has been a great player this year for the most part.
Absolutely.
I can't even hate on him. He's been an all-star. He deserved the all-star nod. Maybe Brunson probably should have got it too, but both of them were worthy. But this is this right here is the problem. Like this is the bigger problem with him. And they're married to him now. I don't see like there's so many. That's the crazy thing. Like I think if you called up other GMs with the season he had this year, and you called up other GMs and said, "Okay, he's on the block. What are you going to give me for him?" I don't think you're going to get a good package in return. Like
Even
I don't
guy
think
averaging 25 and 10 in the All-Star?
that's what I mean. Like I don't think because they look at him and they say he's good,
But
he's an all-star, but he's not. He doesn't have a great basketball IQ. He's got a fragile psyche. You know, like if you say one thing to this guy, you could set him off, and that explodes the whole game. And if he's that important to your team, you're going to lose the game. So this is something we've seen, but this is like that's the point at least I wanted to make. Like you can't build a franchise with him being your best player. Or even your second best player. He probably has to be the third best player on your team.
I was gonna say that. I don't even
right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring that up because we bash on him a lot, and I think, like I said, this year he's really been fantastic. It's been very similar to the COVID year. He's even I think shooting the three better this year than he shot it that year.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so I mean, he's been great from a production standpoint, but again, he's kind of like I'm trying to think of another player I could compare him to, not with regards to talent, but with regards to his mindset. Like I'm trying to think of another player. I was thinking A-Rod, but I don't think so because A-Rod was the best player in baseball.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that. I'm trying to think of a guy like him though. Who I could compare him to in other sports.
I'll give you one, and he's right in basketball, in my opinion. Russell Westbrook. I think it's very much the same. Russell Westbrook could very well. I mean, we know he's a former MVP. We know Mr. Triple Double. Not just talking about that. The wiring. He's capable of being really great statistically. We see it. We're not questioning Russell's. Same thing with Julius. We're not questioning the work ethic. We're not questioning the tenacity. We're not the commitment to excellence. We're not committing. I mean, granted, Russell don't know what the excellence is with the shooting, but I'm just saying we know that they're bought into their craft physically. Like we know they spend the whole offseason working on their bodies and all the et cetera that comes along with being an athlete. They've committed to being an athlete. Julius committed to being an athlete. I don't think we can question any of that stuff. What we haven't figured out is, have you committed to being a professional on the floor and how you approach the game? And Russell has that same wiring. They get into the little internal fights with either a player on the other team. Like it was Russie was wired to always say, I'm going at that dude, no matter what at the cost of my team. I'm going to win that fight against that dude. Like he picks out the one thing and he's like, I don't care about the game. I'm going to show I can dominate that guy, whether we win or lose. Same thing with Julius. I don't even know what his real thinking is. If they win and he's not a part of it, he's mad. You could be ahead in the game, we can have the lead, and the ref makes one bad call and he's pissed the whole rest of the game, even though we're up by 25. He's going to argue from when he leaves out the game, going to halftime, comes out of halftime, will find the same ref and walk him up and down the court the whole entire game, complaining about one call. So Rusty, to me, is my Julius. If you want to pick an athlete in the NBA where they get stuck on something and it won't go away. They won't.
Craig, can you think of somebody? Because I can't.
Can't think of anybody else. For me, it was Charles Barkley for some strange reason.
That's fair. That is fair, especially from early in his career.
All the talent in the world. Those Houston years, right? Even though he was getting older and slower and fatter, right? He seems to have had a quick, especially in Houston towards the end there. He still had enough in the tank, in my opinion, to be good with Pippen and Olajuwon and those dudes and Mobley. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but I know he had Catino Mobley at one point, I believe. I can't think of the other guy.
Well, you might be too young to remember, but early in his career.
I know. Oh no! I mean, my wife and her brother. They love Barkley, so I get it. I'm just It just seems like the first person comes to mind is Bart Charles. I mean, he's just when he threw that ball at Shaq, I was like, that's it, it's over.
But he did.
Yeah, I mean
he did go to the finals though. That's what I'm saying. Like he's been
for one time, and he went up against the best player in the universe.
But he was MVP.
That's true.
But I'll say that though. That when he got to Phoenix, he was different. Like his mindset was different. He was determined and focused to win a championship because of how he left Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to show everyone, I wasn't just talking crap about wanting to leave Philadelphia. I'm really a good enough player to win a title. And I mean, he was great that year, the MVP year, and he was an excellent player. But that's a fair. I didn't even think of him, but that's a good one.
I think another guy too is he reminds me a little bit of Rodman too. Like Rodman would go off and he's going to make a way of throwing himself out the game.
Well, I don't think
because he wanted to party. I'm saying he would go off and because you've heard Michael say it, okay, Dennis, that's enough. And he's like, nah, let me push it to the real level till they kick me out and I throw my shoes off. Like he always borderline on wanting to be that dude to, But I think Rodman's was more psychological. Like he probably wanted to go party with Carmen Electra. I mean, that's just really what it was. He's like, just kick me out of the game. Julius, on the other hand, it's like when they say that term, like you yell squirrel and the dog takes off. That's Julius. It's like as soon as the ref blows one whistle, he's taking off. And
it's so weird.
Draymond Green's like that just a little bit too.
A little bit.
I mean, in terms of,
but he's still thinking.
He's still small. But he's
like with Julius lose track. But Draymond, who said it best?
Draymond is kind of calculated, right? Like he kind of he has it in his head that he's going to do these things to this guy, and I'm going to do that to this guy, and it's not reactionary. It's premeditated. He's planning on doing this to agitate somebody, or he's planning on getting on the ref, maybe to get calls for his teammates. Like he's planning on doing these things. With Randall, he's like he goes 0 to 100 real quick, like the Drake song 0 to 100. He does. He goes like that. As soon as something happens, it's like you see like the smoke coming out. I see the cartoon character smoke coming out the ear, all that other stuff. Bugs Bunny, like it's really crazy, and it's just like you want. I think he's a very nice guy. I really do. I think he's a really nice dude. I think he's a good father. He's good to his son. All that stuff about him is great. And I'm wondering, like, is this the place where he can let all his frustrations out? So that's why when one thing goes wrong, he just like explodes. It's so weird to me. Because most times in life, people try and not do that at work. Like you try and keep all that stuff bottled in when you're at work. And then when you go home, you scream, whatever, and all that stuff. But this guy, man, I don't know. And it's tough because, like I said, they invested in him. He's their guy. But like I said, what kind of a package would you give for Randall? If I was a GM in the Knicks and I called you and I said, hey, we're putting him on the block, what would you give me for him? Like, give me a hype. It doesn't have to be, you could say like the level of player and the kind of draft pick. You don't have to pick specifics. You can pick specifics, but you could pick like a level of player and then give me like a pick or two. He's smiling. I can't wait to hear this one.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Karl Anthony Towns and whatever first you have. I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking about what would benefit Tibbs at this point because he wouldn't go anywhere. I don't think.
Well, again, I'm not. This isn't the Knicks. You
mean what? If I was,
he's on the block.
If so, you're Leon Rose and I'm just Joe Schmo GM. What would I give you for him?
What would you give me? Yes.
I don't know. I will leave it to my analytics people to make that. My cap people to make that decision. I guess, right? Like the guy averaged. I'm trying to be fair, right? The guy averaged 25 and 10. And he's an all-star, right? And on a winning playoff team, on a winning team that's going to the playoffs. That's not worth the same type of player or caliber of a player in at least a first.
Theoretically, it is.
So
but if you're watching Julius Randle like we are, right? If
loses crap.
You basically call up your what's it called? Your video guy and be like, get me everything you have on this guy. I want every game. I want to watch him and see exactly what he's about. Because as much as I watch the NBA, I have other job. That's not my job. My job is our team. So I want to see everything you have on this. And then you're watching all the fouls and him losing his mind. And would you really give up? Do you really think you get an equal value? You give up an equal value trade?
I'm probably being biased because I want him out of here. I don't care how.
Well, I understand that. That's what I mean.
If I'm the opposing
GM,
I'm
out of that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let me do a RJ thing here. Just give me equal value. I'll give you the equivalent of what player I have to you.
So like a Jimmy Butler.
A Jimmy Butler, a Zach Morris.
You mean Levine?
I'm being smart.
Oh,
Person, being facetious.
You've been watching Saved by the Bell, haven't you?
Yes, I have. The college years. But yeah, I mean, you can't really fleece anybody anymore, right? I think GMs have evolved for the most part, right? Unless we're talking about like Minnesota right now, right? But other than the Minnesota GM, you're not really getting fleeced anymore. Beside me, Jerry is not out there fleecing people anymore.
We can get picks.
Yeah, I'm not even saying Danny Ainge is fleecing. He's not fleecing anybody either for the most part, right? Except for that Minnesota trade. But other than that, like GMs are getting smarter. They're like, no, we're not going to play that game. We saw that with Julius Randle when he was on the block a couple years ago. So I'm like, okay, here, I'll give you Zach LaVine. Give me Julius. Let's make it an even swap.
And based on his production, you probably should be able to talk Karl Anthony Towns or someone like that.
Yes.
Right? That's kind of what I was trying to get at.
I would love Karl Anthony Towns. I would love to do that. But
I'm just saying, like, when you think of the reason why you wouldn't get the trade is exactly what we're talking about. Like, it's not just the fact that he's, he can be weird on the court. It's the fact that he's a fragile guy, and teams know that now. So they're not going to give you full value for him.
But if I'm the Bulls, I'm trying not to be biased because I like Zach LaVine. But I think that would be an even. Like that'd be even.
Like let me put Ty. You can answer this one if you want.
Yeah.
Let me throw this out there.
Clearly screwing us up.
No. Yeah, that was fair. That was perfectly fair. But I want to give Ty a shot. So let's put it. So if they called the Wizards, would you offer Porzingis?
Yes.
You're not Ty, damn it.
I am today. I identify as Ty.
Now, if I'm a GM and I'm calling it, the Knicks are saying that Julius Randle is on the block.
Right. Would you offer Porzingis? Would you offer him?
Maybe not, and I'm going to tell you why. This is how I would judge Julius. Let me make sure I'm right. BB and AB. BB is before Brunson.
What are we talking about?
CC Mouse will come in there too. Come on, CC is saying. Let's have some church up in here. No, before Brunson and after Brunson. That's the way I would judge Julius. What was he doing before Brunson? He was erratic, had one great year, always put up great stats, but he's not mentally dependable. When he got focused, and it was when he became off ball, basically. They took all the ball out of his hand. Same thing even with RJ towards the end of the season prior to Brunson. Julius looked like he got frazzled and couldn't handle the pressure. RJ's like, give me the damn rock. Let me go rock out these last 20-something games. And it was sort of like RJ's like, I got the ball. So if I'm a GM and I'm the Wizards and I'm looking at him, KP's contract makes a lot of sense. But I got to make sure if I'm bringing in Brunson, I got that point guard here that won't allow him to take over my team. So is that Bradley Beal? If we say we could think Bradley Beal could be the one holding the rock the longest and then facilitating the Julius, I would take those all into account because I'm going to tell you, I would offer Porzingis and take back Julius, but I'm taking back more years. So I may ask the Knicks for a pick. I'm asking for Julius and an asset because it's not enough that he putting up all-star numbers. Scratch that. If you're trying to win, is this guy a winning player? He's not proven he's a winning player. He's proven that he can be a statistical stud because the Knicks didn't get better until Jalen Brunson came here and started balling out. And what you're seeing in this season is a combination of Jalen Brunson and a combination of also a guy like Josh Hart and the Knicks collectively coming together better. Julius is not responsible for what we're seeing now. Julius was responsible for getting himself on the All-Star ballot 2 years ago and making the Knicks pretty good enough to get into the playoffs. But who assisted that? RJ assisted that. Derrick Rose assisted that. So we're seeing the same formula that we're seeing now with Brunson. Brunson, new acquisition, made the team better. Josh Hart pushing towards the end to get into the playoffs. Julius, in spite of having a great season, can be rattled. He's had some great games. He had his best game was in Miami, that clutch shot. That's the only time he's been clutch in 4 years. Think about it. I'm not giving one clutch game. His shining moment was in Miami for 4 years. I'm not talking about stats. Everybody can throw up numbers. Like I said, 28 points a game is 7 points a quarter. Don't give me about putting up damn numbers. That's 7 points a quarter. If you're an NBA player getting all the touches, you should get 7 points a quarter. So
the crazy thing is, I mean, I'm looking at the comparison stats between those two right now, and KP's actually better.
That's what I'm talking about. I know he was. He's been balling. People don't know this. He's better. The best Porzingis is right now. The best version.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I can ask myself the same question, and I mean, I would probably offer them a player, an all-star caliber player, but not an all-star player.
Yep.
And the reason is because I would say to myself, well, yeah, he's been great. He had a great. If I was talking on the phone, he's had a great year, but I don't trust him. I don't trust him in big moments. I don't trust him not to lose it. Like, it's a very, very weird dynamic to have. And again, it's not the first time we've seen players like this in sports. It's just a very strange dynamic with this guy because it doesn't totally add up. When you see him and you hear him talk and stuff, you don't get that impression.
Yeah.
And then it just, like I said, it doesn't take much on the court. So you did bring something else up that I wanted to talk about. I guess we can end on this one because we're almost hitting the hour and a half mark, so we can kind of end on this. But you brought up Jalen Brunson, and clearly, I believe he is the best player on the team. Regardless of his terrible defense, because like I said, I think Damian Lillard might be the only one who's worse on defense. Like, I was watching him last night, I'm like, holy crap, this guy's terrible. But Brunson is not a good defensive player. But when it comes to efficiency, when it comes to playing big in big moments, when it comes to leading the team, like, he's not a vocal guy, but you could tell they definitely look to him, and he's definitely the guy that they follow. And we could just reflect off what we were just talking about. He doesn't get rattled. Like, nothing bothers him. And, that's kind of why the Knicks are in the position that they're in. I think you can even see it when he's not playing now, and you can see how they react to him and how he reacts to the team when he's on the bench. Like, he's the first one up clapping. He's the first one up cheering. He's meeting them at half court when they're walking back on timeouts. Like, he's definitely shown all the traits you want, and he's been their most valuable player. And it's crazy to me how that happens. Like, how a new guy could come in and just do that right away. Mm-hmm. But man, there's a respect level that they have for him, and the young players look up to him. Like, they were interviewing. They've interviewed Quickly. They've interviewed Grimes. McBride last night talked about him.
Yeah, his
impact. It's been a really, really great season for Brunson. And despite my issues, I have the same issues you have, Ty, with how he plays sometimes. I don't think he tries to create for others. I think he's very, very good at creating for himself. But I think when it comes to being the traditional point guard, he kind of lacks in that. But he's been fantastic. And I don't think there's any question that he's their most valuable player. Is there anyone else outside of Brunson and Randall? Is there another guy on the team that you think could qualify for being their most, maybe not valuable, most important player? Either one of you could take it.
I'm still thinking.
If I had to think now, it's Josh Hart, to be very honest. I mean,
that's where I was going to.
Looking at what he's brought, because I don't so much as, I mean, we can always look at the results, but the thing I was listening to is the player's impact. When bringing up his name, how they talk about he came in and he fit, much like Brunson. He came in and he fit in, didn't try to overexceed, just said, "Look, watch what I'm doing. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to give you everything I got." Villanova dudes are hellified NBA basketball players.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
The culture in Villanova is built for. I know we hear about Duke, we hear about Kentucky all the time, but Nova's guys are great professional basketball players. And I don't know if we've got an elite one out of Villanova, but tell me which guy that's from Villanova right now you would not put on the Knick uniform.
No,
right
I mean, they are that program.
You not take Mikal Bridges now? Hell to the
I definitely. I'm eating.
I would take Bridges.
I'm eating.
Eating crow.
I'm eating the biggest, blackest crow.
That dude is balling the hell out, and look. And the funniest thing is about it in Phoenix, we didn't even see this version. We saw the guy who was literally willing to do everything to help his team win, and now he's become the focal point of his team, and he's been lights out. I mean, I would say even when I look at like when you look at the dynamic of the Knicks now, they're missing that guy. They're missing Mikal Bridges. If Mikal Bridges was somehow on the Knicks, and you can subtract, say, Randall, which would be what if I was going to do an exit plan with Randall. The exit plan would probably to try to get Mikal Bridges to go along with the rest of the team. You remove Randall and put Mikal Bridges on the Knicks right now, and the Knicks become a scarier playoff team than with Julius Randle on it. Don't give me those points he's put up, and don't give me the whole Randall's best 16 game with 30 points. That's crap. Those are stats. Nobody got time for stats. We're talking about who's going to ball out when it's time to ball out and win you a ring. I would take Mikal Bridges right now over Julius Randle simply because he's willing to fit. He's willing to give you everything on the court. Defense, offense, whatever it takes makes winning plays. No one can say Julius Randle makes winning plays. Who's going to tell you that? You going to say that? Who want to put their money on that? Winning plays?
He's
counting him to make winning plays. No,
he's a two-way player. Like Bridges is a two-way player, so right away that kind of gives him the nod.
For me.
In those kinds of matchups, it just goes back to what we were just talking about. He's not going to lose his mind if something goes the wrong way. Like he's a very measured player. And hey, you brought this up, but we need to shout out to Jay Wright and give him credit because he built that program, and these guys are all cut from that cloth. And it's a fantastic program. I mean, I know I joke with Craig about it a lot because he's a Villanova guy, but I used to joke a lot about it with Villanova. But hey, can't fight the results. You can't argue with the results. I mean, they won 2 national championships or 3, right? And Jay Wright is fantastic. Like,
would you take DiVincenzo? Would you take DiVincenzo right now? I take him.
I would. I'm watching him right now. I take him.
I do.
I think literally in the Knicks team. Why the hell would I not? Those dudes ball out. They all.
I love all those guys. I do.
Players, take them all day. But I don't know. I mean, Brunson has just been everything for this team. I mean, but Hart's play came in and he kind of bookended Jalen Brunson. That's really what it came down to. And it does happen that they're best friends or whatever. So they just kind of made the glue come together. And I mean, I watched Josh Hart. Don't ever get it twisted. I love watching the dude. The dude is all out the whole game. Those drives to the basket.
Pushes the ball.
He pushes the rock. He's snatching rebounds out the air. I mean, he's doing everything West Knicks want. We want those kind of players in New York. I mean, he's written around. I made the joke about the light-skin energy I didn't like coming out from New York, singing Ja Rule. All right, bag that. Nobody wants to see all that. But you repping. You from B-More, wherever you from, rep that rap music.
I think he's from Prince George's.
Act like you
I'm just gonna name other guys in the NBA that are from Villanova. Sadiq Bey, obviously Kyle Lowry, Craig's best friend. Like those 2 guys too. Like Sadiq Bey has been. He's not a great player, but he's a good player for the Hawks.
I'll take him on the Knicks. I'd take him on the Knicks.
I wanted him on the Knicks, actually. That's one of the guys I wanted with Sadiq.
I know.
Yep. I mean, they definitely are. It's kind of a it's like I said, it's a testament to Jay Wright. Everyone talks about Kentucky, and Kentucky has always obviously been a machine for NBA talent, but these guys all play the exact same way. That's
Yeah,
the thing. They all play the exact same way.
yeah.
And you can't argue with that. That Josh Hart, yeah, he probably would be. That trade has definitely solidified the team. It's kind of brought them together, and he's been. I can't believe how good he's shooting the ball. Like he's never been a great shooter, and since he's been here, he's really hitting every shot. So
I think that's a product of being where you want to be too. Like he's, we're all really good friends now. Clearly, if we hung out, we're gonna have a great time now. But not, if we were with other people, we might not have the same great time. That doesn't mean they're not fun. It's just, but I'm hanging out with my real dogs here, and we're gonna have a blast. I think it's the same thing. Like he's with Jalen now, and he's like, I'm with my dude. We're gonna go out here, and Jalen pumps him up. Jalen has him like the second coming of, I guess it's Scottie Pippen. I'm not being funny, but Jalen is always bigging him up with the compliments about how great he plays, and wait till you see this guy, and he's living up to the billing, in a lot of ways. Definitely, Villanova all the way as far as for the Knicks. I mean, they can get rid of some of them Kentucky people. I'm not Kentucky bluegrass at all. You can take those dudes, especially that Joker. I can't even watch him run down the floor some days. I mean, it's just gotten to the point. Like, I'm watching him and he's jogging. I'm like, I don't even want to watch him jog. It's really bad.
It's a shame guys averaging 25 and 10.
And he's been dope.
And it doesn't even matter. Yep. It's so like I watch him play. I'm like, oh, okay. Like that Miami game, like, oh, he's playing really well. I'm like, oh, all right, good job, Julius. And then I'm just at the same time just like real.
That's the crazy thing. Like it's rare that the guy who's having the best statistical season on your team is a guy you're like, I really don't care if he's here next year.
It's a shame, man. It's a shame. So bad even saying it, but it's a shame.
It is.
You know what it was too? It was the Clipper game for me. Like all season long, I've not been complaining about him. Like usual. I'm like, whatever. I'll leave it alone. But it was the Clipper game, and I'm like, here you come. You're back. And this is the first thing I was like, you're back. I was like, for all this year, I've been ignoring all. You haven't been doing a lot of the craziness, and it's like the Clipper game. I'm like, right when the playoffs are about to begin, here you come, doing what all of us disliked about you, and it's like, then with me, it's like, here, this is Atlanta. We're gonna have another Atlanta situation. You're gonna implode in important games because they're gonna play Toronto. If we play Toronto, I don't know how the season's gonna go. Toronto and Milwaukee is going to frustrate the hell out of him.
Yep, he went full Linda Blair, head spinning around. Like he went full exorcist. Like not even. I was like, oh God, here we go again. And I laugh, and I shouldn't laugh, but like I see it coming, and I'm like, that's it.
And once the league sees it coming, the whole entire league.
Well, that's what Pullman does.
The story of him, even Tyronn Lue after the I guess it was the post game, he was basically saying, we know this guy's cards. We know what he don't like. And Thibodeau won't make an adjustment. That's why I know, like I said, we have to have the right to make the playoffs. Right. We have the great potential to make a good run. But not with that. Those two dudes together are just that's just gonna be ugly.
Right, like we were talking in the group chat, and John is still in the group chat. So we were talking, and I said that that was he asked the question, like, what do we think would prevent him from a great run? And that was my answer. I'm like, I don't trust the coach to be able to make adjustments and to be able to, to not be like to be like, yeah, he doesn't have it today. I'm gonna take him out. At least not with his star players. He'll do that to the guys who, whatever. But his guys, like we talked about, his Quickly, Brunson, Hart, Randall, if they're playing badly, they're still going to get their minutes. Yeah, they're still going to get their minutes.
He's not going to get either one of those.
Right. Like I brought up during the Clipper game. I'm like, why not put Derrick Rose in, or why not?
Why not put Rose or Fournier in? What?
Yep.
What are these guys sitting there for? Come playoff time, I'm not being funny. You're going to need a Derrick Rose or a Fournier to kind of say,
right, there might be a game. Yeah.
Let me go in. I can get these buckets. I think it's so funny with Evan. It's like we watched the Boston games like they never happened. This dude showed up in the Boston games, in hot rivalry games, and has just tortured Boston. And he did what Quickly did in one game. Evan does every time against Boston. It's like you're going to see this team sometime, probably in the playoffs, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, that's a personal thing, though.
Yeah, they gave up on him. It's something. He put something in his leprechaun cereal or something. He can't not stand.
They gave up on him, and he's now they're on his list. So it is crazy, though. And like we always say, like if he played that way all the time, he'd be an all-star easily.
All-star. He'd be an all-star league. He did that. And worst
so good.
He took that personal, whatever that was.
All right, so we've been on for an hour and a half. Let's close this one down. We didn't get to the around the NBA stuff, guys, but we could talk about that. Those stories are going to be ongoing.
Yes.
As the season goes on, especially the one about Ja Morant. Obviously, everyone who follows the NBA knows what's going on there. But we could talk about that next week. Bring that up because I'm sure we'll have a little bit more to talk about. We just heard that I think his suspension can end on the 24th or something like that.
Yeah.
And because he's suspended, they suspend him for 20 games or something like that, and it's retroactive to the games he's missed already. So I think that's what it is. So he'll be back soon. But we could talk about that in the future. What went on with him because it's a crazy story. But to me, that's more Maury than sports. So I'd rather not. I'd rather talk about that at another time. So all right. So let's wrap this one. Craig, tell them where they can find you, man.
You can find me on Twitter at Trace_Sun28. You can also find me on the Knicks our page on Facebook on Knicked Up, and that is it.
Ty, let them know where they can find you and your writing. Tell them about your writing.
Yes, you can find me at Genius Scribble on Twitter. You can also find me at the Knicks fan page that we have, where I'm trying to engage my audience, our audience, I should say. Couple articles. I got something about RJ Barrett up now. I have one about Manuel Quickly up. I'm going to do some more future things. Also, I'm looking to do a show idea. Let me know what you guys think. I'm trying to do like a retro Knick championship show. That's the one thing I'm going to try to get to go. Maybe bring in some old heads to discuss the championship years and kind of link the two several generations together. So let me know what you guys think about that and see if that'll work out.
Yeah, we got to get Bob Greenberg on that one.
Well, Bob would be Bob. If you're out there, you're one of the people. I have a couple other people, a couple other gentlemen that are big hoop fans, age appropriate during the Knick championship.
Because I wasn't even born, so
yeah, I mean, I was just born, which is funny enough. Right. I was born, so I'm the bad luck rabbit, so to say. But needless to say, I was speaking with a few of my friends who are big Knick fans, and they're older heads than me, who would love to come on and talk a little bit about the yesteryears and talk about the perspective of the championship years. I found a nice, also I'm going to share it on the Knick fan our page. I picked up a old relic today, and I'm going to share it where you guys can look at it. It's a vinyl record actually of Marv Albert's announcing, or is the play-by-play of Marv Albert with the New York 1973 Knicks. I'm going to share it with you guys on the page. I found that today, so it's a cool little item. I might sell it, but I'm not quite sure yet. We'll see how that goes. Might be a keeper. I'm not quite sure yet. I'll see. But
that's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy that they have those.
Yeah. Oh, it's man, the world out there of old stuff, man, is crazy. But we'll see where it goes. But just some thoughts to keep in mind for anybody. Like I said, Bob is a person I'm going to reach out to, and a couple other people, and see if we can get a panel and chop it up and relate to the old school.
Yeah, that would be a fun show. I think that'd be a fun show to do. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that would be interesting. I'm down for that. So if you can make it happen, let me know.
Yeah, I'm going to make it happen. I got some horses in the stable that are definitely wanting to come on. So they might be old horses, but they're horses still.
It's okay. Like I said, I say talk about that because I was not even the thought at that point. So it's fine with me if we can get people to discuss
definitely
that team and talk about the last time we won. Every time I say that, I still can't believe it, but hey, it's the truth, so nothing I can do about
I'm reminded every birthday. That's all I can tell you.
Yep. All right, guys, you can see on the screen if you want to catch me, you could tweet me at finally33, spell finale 33, at the show page, the show account on Twitter is at all_Knicked_up. I've been pretty active there lately. I'm actually trying to interact with other people who do this on there. Maybe sometimes I say things that might piss them off. I don't know, but that's who I am. I just try to give my opinion, interact, and trying to gain more traction for the show, get them to find us and find out who we are. I also, as I mentioned before, I do a pop culture show called Straight Outta Gotham. You can hit us up on Twitter, me and my friend Pete, my co-host Pete, who hosts the show, at straight_O_G. It's a fandom pop culture podcast where we talk about movies and we talk about little sports too, but mostly movies, comic book stuff, TV shows. It's all fandom, so it's Star Wars, Marvel, DC, all that kind of stuff that I'm into and Pete's into. We talk about that on that show. I think that's all I want to talk about. Yeah, I don't have anything else to plug. I hate when this happens. I do a lot of things, but
And Eric has bars. This is gonna let you know he got bars.
yes, if you listen to the theme, if you listen to
with the Z.
theme. The theme of Straight Outta Gotham, you might recognize the voice. That's all I'll say. You might recognize the person.
Say, got bars. Dude got bars. Not candy bars either. Got bars.
Yep, I got bars. I can sing a little bit. If you guys want to hear that kind of stuff, you got to contact me personally. I don't put that really out on social media besides the fruits off of the show. You have to hit me up personally for that. If you're a Batman fan and you go to the website Batman on Film, I've done reviews for shows there. I've interviewed Rebecca Romijn and Jerry O'Connell and some other level celebrities on there. You can check those out. Me doing my little reporter thing, I guess. I'll put it there.
You interviewed Mr. My Super Secret Identity. Is that who you interviewed?
Yes.
Wow. I'm a little jealous about that.
Eric's global.
Yep.
No one remembers that show. No one will remember that show.
He was on that other show on the Sci-Fi Channel. What was that? He was on that show.
It was a time travel show, right?
Yeah, something like that.
I can't think of the name of it.
He was on House of Cards. He had a role in House of Cards.
Yes, he did. Yes, he was. Yes.
Yeah, he's been on a lot of different. Jerry, obviously, famously, people know him from Stand By Me and probably Scream too. But he's done other things. You can check that out as well. Pete and I did a Straight Outta Gotham tonight on Monday discussing Scream, the new Scream movie, Scream 6. Yes, I enjoyed it very much. If you like the franchise, you'll definitely like this one. So definitely go check that out as well.
Never saw the franchise.
You don't like horror movies, so.
Yep, I never saw the franchise.
It's excellent. It's so good. I love it. Anyway. All right, so I think that's all. Unless you guys have anything else to add.
No, just sleep.
Now we have.
All right, so for Craig and Ty, I'm Eric. You are watching All Knicked Up, and we'll see you next time.
Good night, guys.